So what have you been watching? What have you been watching? 19, is that right? 19 films you've seen since we last chatted?
Yes, 19. So I know it's slightly less than the last time because the last time was 26 films. So
I've seen 5.
I've watched 7 less than that, but yes, 19 films. But the thing is, I'm on this every month. You do a podcast pretty much every week. So.
Pretty much every week, yeah. And I did one with Chris from NRX the other week, and we covered a few films and stuff. So I just went through the list that I'd been through, which ones I didn't talk about, and that's my list of 5 today. So
yeah, 19 in total, including one film that I've not tweeted about yet. So
where do you want to start?
I'll leave that till the end.
Okay.
But yeah, the way I've gone and done it as well, just to be nice, is to get through the 19 is split them. So I've got 2 lists, one which says quick films, so you don't have to talk very much about them, and one which is films to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's the way I've gone and done. I've split them into a list of 2 lists, 10 which are quick films, 9 which is potentially talk about.
Okay. Well, let's do quick films. Get everybody warmed up. After that nice, happy blood pressure chat that we've just had, where we're both getting old and falling to bits, we need to go live in a spa for a month.
I don't like spas.
Oh.
I don't find them relaxing at all.
What if nobody else was there other than you?
Don't find them relaxing at all. For
example, where could you go for a month that would relax you?
Stick me in the most techie place possible. I'll just be an absolute joy. That's my kind of thing. Loads of computers around me, pretty much every single games console ever released, and just stick me in that kind of thing. Huge, massive cinema screen. I'm in heaven there.
Nice.
But throw me in a place where you go to a spa and you're in a sauna for a few hours or whatever. No, that's my idea of hell.
Oh, no, not that then. Well, we'll just lock you overnight or over a month in Gamescom or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. So films in question, kicking off with Spin the Bottle. Mm-hmm. They made a film based on Spin the Bottle.
Of course.
It's pure or utter garbage because the film makes absolutely no sense. The acting is awful and the special effects / makeup is even worse. So it's a god-awful film. Then on to 2 films, actually 3 films, which I can meld into one. But 2 films I can meld into one. Daddy's Head and Azrael. The only reason why is because they're both on Shudder now.
Okay.
Daddy's Head is very similar to The Babadook. The son loses his father. He's living with his stepmom. The father comes back in a very creepy, weird, strange form. And it is just about how the son can sort of like relate back to his father and the stepmom protecting him. It's a very good film. Very, very good film. It's on Shudder now. And Azrael, which is the Samara Weaving film where no single word is spoken through the entirety of the film. It's set after the rapture. And she is used for a sacrifice but escapes. And so she also obviously tried to survive. It's a film that is one of those annoying films where it does things where you thinking to yourself or screaming at the screen, don't do it. Why are you doing that? Yeah. Like there's a camp where these people who are trying to attack her live, and she goes back to that camp about 3 times. And you think, oh, why? Just run. And then it does something with the ending which doesn't make that much sense. So,
does the no speaking thing make sense within the film, or not?
Yes, because there is a part where you see that they've got a little incision on their neck, so it's like they've cut out their vocal cords.
Yeah.
One of the other reasons as well is because there's these beings that are in the forest which react to noise.
Right.
So, but the main thing is they cut out their vocal cords so they can't speak. But it's got a few decent ideas. Samara Weaving, as usual, is really good in the film. She's sort of like, she goes through a lot of hell, to put it nicely, considering it is the rapture. But overall, it misses the mark because it has a few misgivings. And like I said, the ending just really doesn't make that much sense.
Okay. But worth checking out if you've got Shudder.
Yeah, and then Mr. Crockett, which is on Disney Plus or Hulu in America. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like, it takes I don't know if you've seen the Banana Splits film.
I haven't seen the film, but I've seen the series, but not the film.
It took the idea of the Banana Splits and made it into a horror film, which actually it's a stupid, silly film, but quite fun. This is about a made-up character that you would have normally watched as a child who kidnaps children, kidnaps them through the TV. And so he kidnaps this child, and the mothers are trying to actually find out where this Mr. Crockett is to stop him. It's not bad. It's throwaway, silly fun. It was perfectly released because it was released around about Halloween time. So it was perfectly released for that, because it is that popcorn kind of fodder. Throw it on, get a few mates around, get a takeaway, get some popcorn, just watch a few silly films. That's one of those silly films.
Yeah.
A film called Rippy, or when it gets released over here, The Red.
Kangaroo one, isn't it, this?
Yes, it's the mutant kangaroo film, where the mutant kangaroo only shows up for about 3 minutes for the entirety of the film. And the most you ever actually see it is in the last 10 minutes, where it is fully CGI'd and it is ugly to look at. The rest of the movie is just these people trying to find this kangaroo and kill it. That's pretty much it. It's not very good. I love a good, silly, stupid creature feature.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're doing a silly, stupid creature feature, make it practical. You'll save yourself some money. Ironically, practical is cheaper than video FX. So make it practical. Just make it silly. But they go for the serious tone, and it just really doesn't work with the film.
If you've got a film about a crazy kangaroo, it's very difficult to make it a serious movie, isn't it? I mean, Cujo managed it with a St. Bernard, but, Black Sheep, you're not going to go the serious route for a film like Black Sheep. Sounds like with Rippy, they should have just realised what they have.
Yeah,
and have
the new
fun
Bambi
with it.
film, Bambi the Reckoning. They're obviously not going to go straightforward with that. It still hasn't got a UK release, that film. And the new Pinocchio movie, Pinocchio Unstrung, which is, they showed off the first still image from it, and it's using full practical effects with Pinocchio for the Pooniverse, because the Pooniverse is going to come
The Pooniverse, I still think, A, that's genius, and B, is this where we've got to in the film industry? But fair play to them.
It's going to explode in 2025, no pun intended there. But the Pinocchio Unstrung actually looks really interesting, because they look like they've thought about the film, and the stills that they have released looks really good. Whereas Bambi the Reckoning, it just looks like the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey film. But Rippy is just forget it. And another one to forget, again, dropped on Hulu just before Halloween, is a film called Carved. Very similar premise to Rippy, and instead of a mutant kangaroo, this is a mutant pumpkin.
What?
Yes.
Okay. Right. How do people get these funded? That's what I want to know. Why aren't we making movies, Stu?
It was Hulu, because Hulu have their Halloween, and so they wanted just a couple of films to release on that. And it's just about a mutant pumpkin that comes back every Halloween to kill people. It's got DJ Quills in it. Again, it should have been a lot more sillier and stupider than it was. It's slightly better than Rippy, but I still wouldn't recommend it. And then keeping with the insanity, Frankie Frico.
Okay.
From the director of Psycho Gorman.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. Psycho
I've heard
Gorman.
good things. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about that.
Again, if you're a child of the 80s when it comes to horror films, and you like those silly Critters, Ghoulies kind of movies, then Psycho Gorman is definitely a film that is sort of reminiscent of those 80s silly films. Frankie Frico is very similar in that instance. It's just about a guy who's so square and stuck up. He even says to himself that he is square. He's in a relationship. And when she's gone away for the weekend, he's trying to actually do something that will prove that he's not as square as he is. And so during watching his favorite TV program, which is an Antiques Roadshow ripoff, he decides to ring this hotline that comes up on the screen of Frankie Frico, which is this puppet kind of character who says that you ring this line up and you can party and have a good time. Unbeknownst, though, when he decides to do it and bites the bullet, he invites Frankie Frico and his posse to his house, but Frankie Frico is on the run from his world where he lives in, because the head honcho in that world wants to kill Frankie Frico. So they get sucked into this world and they have to try and survive and get out there and kill the bad guy.
Do you know what? That does sound fun. That's the sort of stuff I would have grabbed off the video shop wall back in the 80s. I would have grabbed that one off the wall and gone, I'm going to watch that. Yeah, definitely.
It's not bad. It's not as good as Psycho Gorman. Psycho Gorman is a lot better. Psycho Gorman's humor and gore is a hell of a lot better. So out of the two, I recommend Psycho Gorman more. But if you do like Psycho Gorman, you'll find enough in Frankie Frico to like. But if it is that you can't stand those moronic, silly,
Love 'em.
cheesy comedy horror films, then you will not like Frankie Frico.
I love them because it's like films should be entertaining, and I think the world needs more of those. So I'll check both of those out. But,
and
they sound
then
fun.
2 films double bill on Netflix: That Woman of the Hour and Don't Move. So Don't Move is about a woman who
another film telling us what to do. Don't move, don't breathe, don't do this, don't do that.
She is attempting to commit suicide. She's stopped by somebody at the edge of a cliff. However, he injects her with this thing where after 20 minutes, her whole body will shut down and she needs to try and survive. It makes some very strange, stupid decisions throughout the film. You just think, why would you do that? What? Stop doing that. It's typical Netflix throwaway kind of film. And Woman of the Hour is it's very similar to, it's about a serial killer who goes on a dating show, gets matched up with on a dating show, and it's just about the woman trying to actually survive against the serial killer. It's okay, it's fine. It's very similar to that case that happened in the UK with the TV program Bullseye.
Yeah.
Can you remember the Bullseye killer?
Vaguely. Yeah.
There was a contestant who went on Bullseye, and it was found out that the day before he actually was a contestant on Bullseye, he killed his wife. So it's sort of like very similar to this. It's based on a true story as well. There was a killer in the 70s and 80s who was accosting women and killing them, and he went on a dating show very similar to Blind Date.
And for those outside the UK, Bullseye was a quiz program based on darts. Yes, we had, and people would win yachts and stuff, wouldn't they? And it's like they might live in the middle of a city, but you won a boat. Very strange.
Exactly, or a teammate, or.
But we watched it because there wasn't much else on TV. So.
We had 4 TV channels, so that was it. And then 2 other ones before I get onto the main ones. Bagman. So it's a demon from a child's past come back to actually steal children and push them in a bag. It's just forgettable, completely forgettable.
How do you choose what you want to watch? Because it's like 90% of those films you've mentioned, other than the kangaroo one and Don't Move, I've never heard of any of those. So what makes you go, I will spend the evening with this one or the afternoon with that one? How do you choose your movies? Is it like I've not seen it, or? Pretty much that. It's intrigue, word of mouth, because I follow a lot of TikTokers who are horror content people on TikTok, so they mention these films as well. Pretty much just a mixture of different things. Like there's a film called Director's Cut, which I do actually want to see, which again, very few people has probably heard of. And then it's just blind finding them on places like Amazon Prime and Netflix. Amazon Prime has, obviously, they bury a lot of their films, but when you're just scrolling through it and you get very close to the bottom of the barrel, that's when you start finding these films that nobody has heard of. Like I don't think anybody had heard of when I mentioned it last month of the John Perkins tapes. And even when I logged it on Letterboxd, pretty much nobody had seen the film. And the only review on there that was on there was from the director himself. So it's just finding things like that. Same with Murder-Eaterville. Nobody has heard of Murder-Eaterville. And again, when I logged it on Letterboxd, very few people have seen it. And again, the director logged his own review. So word of mouth, mixtures of different things. Okay, just curious.
And then last throwaway one, Transformers 1, the latest Transformers film, the animated one. It's very much in the sort of like style of the Transformers animated film from the 80s, and the fact that it is made for kids, unlike the Michael Bay live action 4. Look at all of this explosive porn that I'm throwing at the screen. It hasn't got that mentality. It's nice to look at, decent animation. It's a good kids animated film.
I know my friend Rob, he's a huge Transformers fan, and when the trailer came out, I sent it to him, and he phoned me up. He's like, I'm not watching it. The animation's horrible. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. He was really mad at it. And then the reviews came out, and the reviews were pretty positive, and people were like, it's really good. So he did end up watching it. He did end up liking it, and he sort of forgave himself for being a bit of a div and, judging it fully by trailer. But
yeah, the animation's really good. It's fine because, again, it doesn't go down that lecherous route. Yep. Transformers was originally created for kids. It's a kid's toy. Yes, adults collect it now, But that's what happens when you're a kid. You end up still collecting some of the stuff that you collected as a kid, as an adult.
Yeah.
And so Transformers was always created like that. Michael Bay just found a way of making it very lecherous and parents to just leer at the sort of like stuff on screen. And so this has gone back to its original form, and which makes it in the top 3 of the Transformers franchise for me.
I've still never seen Bumblebee. I haven't watched that for some reason.
That's the best one.
But I've seen all the others, other than the animated one, of course. But
yeah, Bumblebee's the best live action one, in my opinion, just because, again, it's a fun film. It feels like a adventure film from the late 80s, 90s. So there's that.
Doesn't have Megan Fox bending over a bonnet for like 2-3 minutes while Michael Bay just zooms in with his camera.
It doesn't have a giant robot with big, huge, massive testicles.
No.
It doesn't have any of that
Michael
kind of
Bay. Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's all of the quick hits.
Yes.
Films.
I will give you a bit of a breather. I'll go through some of the stuff that I've watched. It's not a very long list. I watched a British film, which I've had on DVD for 9 years. Never got around to watching it. Ken Loach's The Angel's Share.
I've seen that.
Which I bought because I, buy lots of British films. I just never got around to watching it for whatever stupid reason. Hadn't a clue what the film was about. All I knew was people wearing kilts on the cover, and it was called The Angel's Share. Put it on. What a charming, lovely movie that was. As you can say that about a Ken Loach film, because a lot of them are really quite grim. But I had a blast watching that. I didn't even know it was about whiskey or anything. I just went in pure cold and spent the evening watching that one. So that was very good.
It was one of those films very similar to Trainspotting that had to have subtitles when it was released in America because they couldn't understand what some of them were saying because their Scottish accent was so heavy. Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Never mind. I don't understand. But I suppose I do understand that. I'm from Scotland, so I can pretty much understand what they're saying, but just weird.
And I'm close with us living in the northeast of England, so I can understand. And I had a Scottish co-host when I did the Monday movie show.
Do you think when Andy's accent was weird though? Because it's like one time you speak to him, it sounded English. Next time, Scottish. He's had 2 accents, that guy.
Because he was from down south, but then he moved to Scotland, and so it's sort of like that kind of thing when you do that. I've got a friend who I work with who was born in Birmingham, but he spent most of his childhood and life in Scotland. And so when he's on the phone or whatever, he splits between a little bit of Brummie and then most of it Scottish. So,
because it's like I've lived in England now for about 38 years. Moved down when I was 15 or whatever, and I've got the mongrel accent, so I don't have like a full English one. I don't have a full Scottish one, and some words I say come out more. So, but I've certainly not gone full the other way. Do you think when they released Purely Belter in America, they gave subtitles just
probably
to bring it towards the Newcastle side of things again?
Probably, because I would probably even think that the Geordie/Macam accent when they go off on a major rant or scream at somebody is the hardest one to understand, because even I have trouble. I've lived in Sunderland all my life. I don't believe that I have much of a strong northeastern accent. A lot of people think I'm from Ireland, which I'm not. But yeah, when you try to have a conversation with a Geordie or a Macam that is absolutely ripping you apart and even yelling or whatever, they just go to the yanars and all that kind of stuff, and you're thinking, what? I'm gone yam. What?
It's like, what, you're going where? What?
Yep. Why can't you just say I'm going home, not I'm gone yam? Yam is a vegetable. It's not a word that means I'm going home. And
maybe when you get that mad, they turn into yams. I don't know. It's possible.
I only learned that it meant home when I started working where I worked, because I never heard it in my life. So I'm thinking, you're making up words now and trying to actually trick me.
They are. They're trying to fool you. So yeah. So I watched that. I watched Blink twice, which again I knew nothing about, other than the fact this was the film with the trigger warning at the beginning. I'm like, how harsh is this film to get a trigger warning? Trigger warnings are weird because it's like everybody's triggered by something. It's like you put balloons in a film, that would trigger Annette. You put spiders in it, it would trigger me. I don't know what your trigger would be, but we've all got something. It's like, oh my God, that's going to freak me out. So I think the whole triggery warning thing's unusual, but it doesn't bother me. It's only like 10 seconds before the film starts. But have you seen Blink twice? I think you have. I really liked it. Again, it was one of those films you watch where some characters do things and you're like, why are you doing that? And it's kind of like, hey, stranger, do you want to come to an island? yes, okay, no, don't do that. Don't go off to an island with these people you've just met. This may not turn out well. That type of thing. But other than that, I really liked it. We worked it out. We're like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
And if you sit and pay attention to the film, you can go, okay, I think I could see what's going on here. Oh yes, I was right. But Annette and I both sat down, watched it, thoroughly enjoyed it. Your overthoughts on it?
It was a good directorial debut by Zoe Kravitz. I thought she did a decent enough job. I felt the film itself sort of like its latter half was slightly stronger than its opening stuff because the interest wasn't too much there with the opening sort of like half of the film, where you're supposed to think, what's going on here? Should I latch myself onto which characters? What's going, like I said, what's going on? And then when it is fully revealed, I felt the latter half felt more like a I Spit on Your Grave kind of homage-esque kind of film. And I felt like if it sort of like introduced more elements of what happened in the latter half into the first part of the film, just little driplets here and there, I think it might have made the latter half of the film more tense.
Yeah.
So it's a good directorial debut, and Zoe Kravitz has got interest there. So it's better than some directors' first film. So, and again, as I've been seeing over the last few years, female directors, especially directorial debuts, my God, have they come on leaps and bounds, especially in the realms of horror and thriller.
Do you think some of that is because they have to? Because we still live in a big old sexist world where studios are like, oh no, we can't give a lady, blah, 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 blah. And so therefore they've got to prove themselves more, and they are definitely doing it, or
no? I think it's just down to the fact that people now are starting to fully listen as to the rights of women, have how scary the world is. Because if you look at a lot of these film directors, especially females, a lot of the films are very much female-centric movies about strong female characters and showing how much turmoil and trouble they have to go through. Like, for example, Rose Glass, Julia Ducournau, films like Titane. Even if I'm going to get onto a film in a couple of moments' time, which is directed by a female director who did Revenge. I mentioned the film The Substance, so I'm going to get onto The Substance a little bit. But yeah, it's just because they do make the female character the center of the film, and it's not where she's just cannon fodder. She's like the final girl kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a strong, powerful woman going in a world where it's a realistic world. And apart from obviously Titane and a woman having sex with a car, there are people out there that do that, but giving birth to a baby that's half human, half car, that's not going to be the case. But yeah, that's just, I feel like women with the horror films that they've released in the last, I would say 3-4 years, have completely revitalized the genre.
Yeah,
because a lot of them.
Well, the women characters in these films have got brains.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to the 80s and probably the 90s, it's like you said, the women were generally cannon fodder, got chased through the woods or whatever, needed a man to save them type thing. Now we're in the case where the women characters in most of these films are like, yeah, something weird's going on, I'm going to deal with that. I don't need a man to help me out. I'll sort it out myself. Bang, job done. I'm going home. So they are the strength of the women characters in the films is a breath of fresh air, definitely.
Which is
in films
what
like
we
Revenge
needed.
And stuff. Yeah.
But as I've said, I think along with studios like Neon and A24, female directors and those two studios have completely revitalized the horror genre. Like horror is now starting to get a lot more attention for the positives rather than for the torture elements that people think that horror is. Like gorehounds, they used to get a bad rep, and yeah, we still do get a bad rep for liking or seeing a film where somebody gets ripped apart and finding it quite entertaining. But if you dig deeper in it, a lot of these female directors are actually showing, you know what, there is a lot more depth to horror these days than it was. So I'm loving it. It's just making this horror person so happy.
Good. Which will hopefully lower your blood pressure.
No, it won't. It probably raise it even more. Get angry at the men directors instead.
Couple of documentaries that I watched. I watched Life After the Never-Ending Story by Lisa Downs. Really, really good. And then we followed it up the night after with a rewatch of Life After the Navigator, which is also by Lisa Downs. I like what Lisa Downs does with these documentaries because they self-explanatory, what it's like after the Never-Ending Story of Flight the Navigator or Flash Gordon. But she manages to focus on, it's not all paychecks and fame and people wanting your autograph. It's about people being in big films and then the real life kind of hits them. So in Life After the Never-Ending Story, it focuses a lot on Noah Hathaway, who played Atreyu, and he's so open about the problems and stuff that he's felt through his life, addiction and stuff like that. And it's kind of ballsy to go, yep, record it, yep, put it out there, let people know. Fair play to him. Life After Navigator is Joey Kramer, who was the kid in Flight the Navigator. That was the one I'd seen previously. And again, he focuses on addiction and how Hollywood picked him up and spat him out. And then how's he going to cope with that? So these are kind of gritty. And it sort of makes you realize that when you watch a film that you love over the years, and then you go, yeah, I bet the cast are just sitting counting their money. And you look at it and you're like, kind of sucks for some of them.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate 80s story, isn't it? That a lot of kids who made it big in the 80s and early 90s, they never went on to make anything bigger than the film that they're most famous for. Yeah. Like, didn't even make anything close to it. Even if you look at my favorite film of all time, Stand By Me, a couple of them went on to make a slight mark on the cinematic world, but not as big as you might think. And it's Never-Ending Story, Flight of the Navigator, all that kind of stuff.
The Goonies, that type of thing as well. Some went big, some kind of didn't go as big as they should have.
So it was the trouble of the 80s. So I can understand. It'd be interesting to watch those kind of films because as a kid who loved those movies anyway, so seeing documentaries based on them would be
the Never-Ending Story one is fun. I mean, the Navigator one's great as well, but the Never-Ending Story one, because you speak to Tabby Stronach, who's the Empress. Barrett Oliver isn't in it, but they do mention that at the end, going he's pretty much just shied away from acting, so he wasn't participating. But listening to Noah Hathaway and Tammy talk about how the film has affected their lives. A lot of positives, but a lot of negatives. Real interesting stuff. And then the final film I watched, because I realized that, and this is a topic that we're going to do in a little bit anyway, but there's a lot of films that I haven't seen. I'm like, I really wanted to watch that. And one of them was Ridley Scott's Exodus, Gods and Kings, which took a beating when it came out. People are like, it sucks. It's terrible.
And I was one of them who said it sucked. Yes, because Andy reviewed it in the cinema and I reviewed it in home release, and I thought it absolutely sucked.
And I looked at it and go, well, I kind of know the Moses story because I've seen the Ten Commandments and I've seen the Prince of Egypt and I'm familiar with the story anyway. And it's 2.5 hours and it just looks a bit blue. I'll skip it. But I thought, you know what? I've seen most of Ridley Scott's films, so I'm just going to watch it. And I picked it up in CEX, a triple set Blu-ray for £3. Thought it's worth it. I'm just going to watch it. Try and be a Ridley Scott completist. And I sat down, and it was okay. I don't feel the need to rewatch it. But I couldn't quite work out why it was made. It was one of those films. You go, okay, I've seen all of this before. I don't know why Ridley went, I want to make that. That's the story I want to tell. So that kind of interests me as to how the heck that came about.
Because I feel like he had no choice. I'm guessing it was down to the fact that he wanted to make Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And for him to be able to do that, he was sort of like suckered in to make a couple of films for studios where they said, you make this for us and we'll allow you to make your next in the Prometheus / Alien franchise. And so he had to do a couple of films like that for him to do what he wanted to do, and that's how I felt. Sense.
But the exciting thing for me, and the main reason I wanted to watch it, was on the triple disc Blu-ray, there is a making of, and there's a guy called Charles de Lazarica, who he does all these massive making ofs. He did all the ones for the Alien movies, he did Black Hawk Down, he's done one for Exodus, he did the Transformers 2, Blade Runner Dangerous Days was one that Charles did, and his making ofs are like 3-4 hours long, and they go into so much detail about absolutely everything. and there's a 2-hour 33-minute making of on Exodus, and I kind of enjoyed that more than watching Exodus. To be fair, I
Says a lot
enjoyed the
about the
making
film,
of.
doesn't it?
But I was looking this morning for like which films haven't I seen of Ridley Scott's now. There's only one Ridley Scott directed movie that I've never seen, and that is All the Money in the World. That's the only one of his films I've not watched, so I'm going to try and watch that, and then I'm actually up to date with everything that's been released by Ridley. So obviously I've got Gladiator 2 to watch at some point, but it's not out yet over here, so I can get away with that.
I'm wondering if there's a Guillermo del Toro film that I've not seen. I might have to, after the end of this, IMDb, just to see if there's any Del Toro films I've not seen, because I'm sure I've seen everything going all the way back from Kronos up to his Pinocchio film.
And I ruled out, like, certainly with Ridley Scott, I ruled out like adverts and short films and stuff. I thought I'm just going to go for his cinematic features. And
because
then
he's got his new films out next year, which is his Frankenstein movie, which I can't wait for that, Guillermo del Toro. So it's just like, I'm wondering if there's ever a Studio Ghibli film I've not seen.
may have to do some research. Let me know next time.
I've even seen the first film that Hayao Miyazaki ever made from the 1960s. It's a small animated feature, which was Mubi had it on. It was only on for like 10 minutes. And so I've even seen that from Hayao Miyazaki before he even became a member of Studio Ghibli in the 80s. So I might have to have a little look to see if there's a Ghibli film I've not seen, or if there's a Guillermo del Toro film I've not seen.
Which would be the highest list for you? Because I noticed you went straight to Del Toro. Do you think he would be the one where you're like, he's the one I really want to complete first?
Yeah, well, he's my favorite director, Guillermo del Toro. I absolutely adore everything that he does. And so as somebody it's your favorite director, you think, well, I need to watch pretty much most of the filmic things that he's gone and made, unless it's like obscenely obscure. Like you said, it's like an advert that he made in Mexico, or an episode of a Mexican soap opera that he actually directed. So as long as it's not something like that, then I probably have to hunt out Del Toro stuff first. But I'll have to have a little look.
Is there a filmmaker, you can't pick one that's made like 2 films or 1 film, but is there a filmmaker that springs to mind where you're like, I know that I have seen everything they've directed with regards to feature films, not adverts and shorts and stuff? Mine would be Oliver Stone. I've seen all of his feature stuff, but I can't think of another one. I don't think there is another one for me at the minute.
Sad to raise my hand, but I've seen everything that Paul W.S. Anderson has made. So everything from when he made things like Mortal Kombat all the way up to the present day, which he is making
House of the Dead or something, isn't it?
Yes, he is making House of the Dead for Sega, because Uwe Boll made the first one.
It was terrible.
Uwe Boll didn't actually come back to make the second one, because a lot of people forget there was actually a sequel to Uwe Boll's House of the Dead. And there's spoilers for House of the Dead 2, which I don't think anybody cares about that. The end scene is them walking across the bridge, and you're expecting House of the Dead 3. So Paul W.S. Anderson technically is making House of the Dead 3, but on a bigger budget.
I like Paul W.S. Anderson. It's like he's not going to win an Oscar anytime soon, but his films are just put your feet up and watch them. I'll always go to bat for the Resident Evil films.
Yeah.
I think his favorite film of mine is Shopping, which I love that movie. I've seen that a lot. I haven't seen Three Musketeers though, so
I think I saw that at cinema, Three Musketeers. But I think I've seen everything Paul W.S. Anderson has actually made. Even his Death Race remake, which I really like, and
I did.
Again, I got that on DVD when it came out, and the making of documentary is only about half an hour or something. But seeing everything practical and the way he actually did the flipping of the cars and all that kind of stuff was brilliant. And he's one of the directors who's doing that, yet somebody else would have CGI'd that, and so. There is always something to like about W.S. Anderson's films, and so I think I've seen everything he's made.
Wow. You need to get somebody else on that list. It's like the only. Which filmmaker have you seen all their work? Paul W.S. Anderson. Who else? Nobody.
I'm definitely. I'm about 98% certain I've seen everything Del Toro has made, but it's when you were mentioning the fact that there's only one Ridley Scott film that you have not seen, it's sort of like, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole here. I need to actually check IMDb and to see if I've actually seen everything. Del Toro makes. I think I've seen everything that even Mila Jovovich has been in as an actress, because I know she's in the next or the final George A. Romero zombie film. She's
Yeah.
been cast in it, which is out next year. But so I think I've seen everything that she's acted in, from her
I've
acting
probably
debut
seen
in The Fifth Element to
most of her stuff. I think I've probably seen. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe not all, but yeah, Exodus. I thought it was fine. I don't need to rewatch it. It's just I don't think you get away with that casting nowadays, because I'm sitting watching it like, okay, so Christian Bale from Wales, Joel Edgerton playing Ramesses the Egyptian. It's just like Sigourney Weaver playing somebody's mum, and it's like, are there any Egyptians and Hebrew people in this movie? I don't know. It was just
Direct,
it was like,
directed by a guy from the northeast of England.
yeah, it's just the strangest casting ever. And it was
Mhm.
bugging me all the way through the film. I'm like, who's playing Ramesses? Because I know that face. And then afterwards, it's like, oh crap, it's Joel Edgerton.
Yeah.
Very unusual casting, but yeah. But I've seen it, so all is good. So back to your lists.
So the big one, Terrifier 3, because I hadn't seen it before the last show, and so obviously I was going to see it after it. I'm a fan of the Terrifier series. I've seen everything in relation to it all the way back to The Ninth Circle, which came out in 2008, and then he did the short Terrifier, and then All Hallows Eve, which has got both The Ninth Circle and the Terrifier short in it, either side of another part of the film. And then the first Terrifier, which I watched on Now TV when I had a subscription to Sky Movies on that, and I saw it on there, and I thought I would watch it. And it's this grimy $50,000 small budget horror film about a character called Art the Clown. David Howard Thornton, who played Art the Clown in that one, and has since in the Terrifier series. And I remember the scene where a woman gets cut in half with just a standard handsaw from her crotch downwards.
So uppy downy rather than lefty. Oh god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fun. And then the second one, which I saw, and it's a tiny bit too long, and Art the Clown is starting to come into himself, where he's having a bit more of a playful nature, and you've got the infamous bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. If you've not seen it, please watch the bedroom scene. It's a 10-minute torture scene which goes on and on and on, and my God.
Lovely.
Everything in the films, as well as practical effects, he works solely with practical effects with little touches of CGI here and there, but it's all practical. And that bedroom scene, yikes. And then on to Terrifier 3, which is the first Terrifier film to get a theatrical release. It's now made very close to $100 million worldwide.
Of a budget of two
Yeah.
million. Yep.
So brilliant to hear. Art the Clown has now cemented himself into the annals of horror history and horror fandom. A lot of people know in the horror world who Art the Clown is now, thanks to the gleeful nature of how David Howard Thornton plays him. It's a Christmas film because it's set at Christmas, and so that was me seeing a psychopathic, insane, over-the-top, gory Christmas film was always going to resonate with me. It has a few yikes kills in it. There's one scene which is not a kill, but it's a crikey, I can't believe they've gone and done that kind of scene. It shows the more playful side of Art the Clown, especially the scene where he sees Santa Claus having a drink in a bar, and he sort of like accosts us, and it's just a genius thing. He sort of like has a playful, childish nature. As soon as he walks past the bar and he sees Santa Claus in there, he goes from his malevolence, oh, I just killed a lot of people, to, oh my God, it's Santa Claus, kind of thing. And yeah, it's not as long as the other one, which is good.
Yeah.
The only misgiving I had was I didn't like the way the last 15 minutes was joined on to the first like hour and a bit, because it felt a bit disjointed, like something was missing in between it. But as a gore hound and as a horror hound, I just had a hell of a lot of fun with Terrifier 3.
So I've never seen any of the three, and from some of the scenes you've described, it may be a while before I watch some of them. Art the Clown, is it like a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees type character? No, what's the sort of, who is Art the Clown and why does he do what he does?
He's a demon. Well, the backstory of Art the Clown is only ever properly alluded to in the third film. He was supposedly a serial killer who this demon was trying to latch on to malevolent forces on Earth to try and kill people. And so this demon latched onto what we know now as Art the Clown, which I think we're going to fully find out his backstory in Terrifier 4.
Yeah.
And he has joys in killing people. It's pretty much as simple as that. In the third one, it is the survivors from the second one, and he's trying to kill them, pretty much. But through the storyline and through the film itself, anybody pretty much who gets in his way, he ends up enjoying murdering them.
Yeah. Does the Art the Clown talk, or is he a silent clown?
No, he's a silent,
like
being,
a Myers,
silent killer. Yeah. But he just, the joyful playfulness and the fun that he has in dismembering and maiming and ripping people apart kind of thing. I'll not go into most of the kills because that's the whole point of watching a film like this. You need to actually see the kills for yourself. But there is a few really, really nasty kills in this film, and it's all practical. Like the gore is just full on in your face, but it is proper feely gore. And even hear the squelchy noises and all that kind of stuff where he's getting the joy of it. Ice Nine Kills, the band, did the music video for it, and the music video is on YouTube. So if you've not seen any of the Terrifier films, watch the music video for Ice Nine Kills, The Art of Dying. You'll get a definite feeling of what Art the Clown is actually like as a killer.
Do you buy the stories that people, certainly with relation to third one, well, oh, I'm walking out. I don't get why people would walk out of a Terrifier 3 unless they've not seen number 1 and number 2 and they don't know what the hell they're walking into, in which case, why you go and watching a third one? Do you think that was marketing hype, or do you think...
It did happen because David Howard Thornton, the actor who played Art the Clown, was in a screening, and when a couple of people did walk out. So it did happen. But it's just, why go see the film like that? It's just stupid.
If it's the first film, you go, I get it, because you go. I remember sitting down, I can't remember the name of the film now, which is really bad, but I remember sitting down in a screening at one of the Grimfest ones. I keep wanting to say Megalopolis, but it's not Megalopolis. Oh, God, I've forgotten it. And I remember sitting going, okay, this film feels really creepy and weird. Is this going to be the first film where I'm like, I can't tolerate that, and I left? I didn't, because it was a great film, but if that was a third film of a series, you would hope that you would know what you're in for. So
the thing with the Terrifier films as well, they're not scary. They're just there to entertain. They're an entertaining gore fest of a film. So if you can't stand gore, do not watch it.
No.
But if you're fine with gore, then definitely watch it, because it is just an entertaining gore fest of a film, and you're there for the kills.
Yeah.
Like my favorite kill in the entirety of the film is a kill that features very, very little gore. Because there is one kill which is stupidly gory, but then my favorite kill, like he said, it's got minimal gore in it. It's just the way the kill is actually done, which I thought I had well, the psychopath in me had a gleeful smile on my face.
Psychopath, always a disturbing phrase to use. I'm here. The psychopath in me, what's this?
Yeah, it's just I thought it was quite funny, but if people, when you watch the film, I'll let you know what scene it is, and then you tell me if I'm gleefully psychotic for finding it quite funny. But it's just the way it's presented.
What do you want from Terrifier 4?
A cap on the Terrifier series. Like, Damien Leone has turned around and said that we're pretty much at the end of the Terrifier franchise. He doesn't want to do a Friday the 13th or a Halloween or one of these ones where there's 10, 12, 14 films in the series. He doesn't want to do that because it'll dilute what Art the Clown actually is. So he's got his ideas planned for Terrifier 4. And then he said he wants to go on doing something different because he's always had plans to make a zombie film and things like that. So I would love him to do a zombie film because he's obsessed with practical effects. And so I know it's going to be in the right hands. But he's got ideas for Terrifier 4. And I just want to see, it'll be nice to see what Art the Clown was like before he became Art the Clown. Because even if you've seen the Ninth Circle only has an appearance of Art the Clown. He's not the main protagonist or antagonist of the Ninth Circle. It's only a short film, and you see Art the Clown in a train station, and that's it. It's only when he's in his own short called Terrifier where you do sort of like see a little bit more of him, but we still don't know the full backstory of who Art the Clown was before he became Art the Clown. So I think we'll see that in Terrifier 4, but there are ways in the way Terrifier 3 ends that Terrifier 4 will follow on directly from it. But I'm hoping he thinks, you know what, let's stop it after 4.
When's your guess on when we will? Well, not we, because I haven't seen the first 3, but when you will see Terrifier 4, you and Chris.
It's slated for 2026. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be out in October of 26.
Yeah.
So
not too far off then.
Good. And then sticking sort of like with Damien Leone, because the next film is a film called Stream.
Yeah, okay. As in website stream or as in water stream?
As in website stream, because it's about a family who's trying to reconcile sort of like their family relationship. They decide to go, we're on holiday. They end off at this motel, which is run by Jeffrey Combs' character. And in this hotel, there are 4 psychopathic serial killers. The hotel gets locked down. The people inside this hotel have to try and survive against these 4 psychopathic serial killers. People are watching at home, and these serial killers need to kill them in as gruesome way as possible. So it's got people like Jeffrey Combs, Daniel Harris in it, Tim Curry.
Wow, okay.
Is in it. Dee Wallace, Tony Todd, which we'll obviously get on Tony Todd very soon. Bill Moseley. It's David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier series. If you can think of a horror icon,
they're probably in it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're in this film. It doesn't go as mad as I was expecting and I was hoping it to be. The special effects are actually done by Damien Leone. So he does all the makeup and stuff like that. And I wanted it to go further than it actually did. But it's still fun.
And it's nice to see a big cast of, like, you rattle off some of them names, Dee Wallace, Daniel Harris, etc., just all getting together and going, have some fun. It's like, you'd love to be on that set, wouldn't you, just hanging around with all them? That'd be awesome. And
again, it's set up for a sequel. You can actually go for a full universe with Stream. So we'll see what icons and things like that the director can get for the second one. But as a sort of like a horror fan, you're just going, I know that one. I know him. I know her. Yeah. It's like a who's who kind of thing. So it's good for that instance.
I'm not watching it with Annette, though, because she'd be like, oh, what's that person been in? What have they been in? What have that been in? It's like, put the goddamn phone down. So, yeah. So I'll watch that on my own.
The Substance, which is the new Demi Moore film, which is really, really good. It's very weird. The ending is extremely weird. If you love David Cronenberg sort of like body horror kind of movies, then you will absolutely love The Substance. Demi Moore is brilliant in it. It's one of her best performances she's ever done. It's directed by Coraline Farger, who did Revenge. Which I quite liked Revenge.
Yeah, I did.
And this, again, as I said, with female directors, this is cementing Coraline Farger as sort of like in the annals of one of the horror directors to watch out for. I would definitely probably say it is Demi Moore's best career performance. She's 61. She doesn't mind the bare all. You see everything of her. Yeah. And it's just the way the film flows. And yeah, I really, really like it. But if you're not a fan of body horror, don't watch it.
Where would you put it on the gore scale for what you see rather than obviously the subject matter?
It's not as gory as Terrifier 3, but the gore
is anything. Yeah, probably actually. Probably.
But it is an 18. It's a definite 18 rated film. Like, it's not one of those films where it's rated 18 and you just think, you know what, that could have been a 15 easily. It is a definite 18 because there are stuff in it which is really nastily gory at times. There is one scene which might make you go a little bit. But highly recommend The Substance. It's out on streaming very soon.
Right.
So when it does drop, definitely recommend it.
Because isn't that like a movie film or something?
Yes, it's on movie.
Yeah, it's on movie. Yep.
Next up is a film called Mads, capital M-A-D, capital S.
Okay. Yeah.
It's on Shudder. It's from the director of Them, Il, which I really love.
I love that. I love that movie. Yep.
It's a one-shot film, so it's a one-take film.
I love them too. Yeah.
It starts with a guy in his car who ends up picking up this woman because she looks like she's in trouble. there is something happening. There's a disease that is turning people into these zombie-esque characters, very similar to 28 Days Later. And it's a one-shot film where it follows him and a couple of other people through the night. I'll leave it at just that. It's fantastic. It's very tense, extremely tense, like Eel or Them. The way the camera flows through the film itself, it's very like a character of the film rather than just being there. The cinematography is just outstanding. The sound is brilliant. The acting is brilliant. It's a fantastic film. Just came out of nowhere, but it's got elements of Eel, so like the tension of Them. It's got those elements in this, but sort of like expanded out through a disease, sort of like zombie kind of thing. But I can't recommend Mads enough.
Yeah.
It, like I said, it's on Shudder.
The fact that it's for the people that did Eel would put me in, because or Them as I know it as. But yeah, I love that movie. Still freaks me out to this day.
So I highly recommend Mads. Like I said, it's on Shudder now, so I recommend that. The Wild Robot, the final DreamWorks in-house animated film, which is annoying because now any film that's going to be done by DreamWorks, it's going to be outsourced. It's a beautiful film. It's a very simple film. Humans have pretty much destroyed the world. There is robots. This robot is abandoned after a shipment crashes on a beach, and the robot ends up destroying this nest of ducklings. One survives, and she decides to raise the duckling as one of her own. And it's an adventure film. The animation is outstanding. It's the best animated film I've seen this year, animation-wise. The film is just beautiful, both story and its human elements to it. It's sort of like a relationship between mother and daughter, or father and daughter, or father and son. Even though I don't have a child myself, it sort of like touches a nerve sometimes, and it's just up there with definitely the best animated film I've seen this year.
Would the psychopathic side of you not like want to kill the robot, or
no?
You just keep them.
Yeah, because it's sort of like it made that very cold, dark heart just beat.
Little flicker of light.
Beat. Yeah.
Like the never-ending story when she has like a little spark of fantasia in her hand going, here it is, there is some sort of life. Yep.
Okay. There is that little spark, and every now and again there's a film that doesn't, and it's only an animated film.
Yeah.
That actually does it. That brings that spark alive a little bit. So
it's there.
The Wild Robot was that one this year. It's going to be in my top 10 films of the year.
Okay. Yep.
And I feel like this year as well, when it comes to try and find out the my favorite films of 2024, it's going to be quite hard, because I'm going to have to start thinking about doing that list. Yeah. And last year I did 5 best, 5 worst. This year I'm doing 10 best, 10 worst.
10 best.
Because I've seen enough films. I'm close to 140 brand new films this year. I'll easily hit 150, and I can easily do a 10 best and 10 worst. But this year, I think, for me, it's been a quite strong year for film.
I think it's been a really good year for films, considering that we had big strikes and stuff last year. And it's like, we're not going to get anything in 2024. There's not been a shortage.
So it's going to be quite hard for me to actually come up with a list. And then on to the last 3 films, and none of these films are going to make my best list. So I've saved the worst for last, in a way. Yeah. Apart from Smile 2. Smile 2 is a good film, but only a good film. Yeah. Just because it takes its time to do stuff, and this is one of those films where it is rated 18. But I think with a tiny little tweak here and there, it could have been a 15 film, because there's a few scenes which are a bit but it could have been a 15 film. And some of the scenes where a lot of people going, oh, that's scary, I actually laughed at.
Yeah, but I think you've got to remind yourself that those people who I've seen people saying that Longlegs is the scariest film for years, and you're like, you clearly don't watch that many films. Longlegs I enjoyed, but I didn't have nightmares. I've seen far scarier films, and you certainly watch more horror films and more scary films than most of the average people. So maybe it's that.
So you'll have seen, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Smile 2, and there's a bit where you see a lot of dancers coming down the corridor. Yeah. That was the scene that I laughed at, because it felt more humorous than actually tense. And I'm guessing the director was going for tension, whereas I found humor in it. And so it's okay. It's not the brilliant film a lot of people are making it out to be, but it's still okay. And These next two, they go from bad to catastrophically worse.
Bad to worse. Yep.
So to the bad first, the final Venom film, Venom: The Last Dance.
Oh, see, that makes me sad when a film like that is as bad as a lot of the internet saying it is.
Yeah, it's a dead film. It's just there's nothing interesting in the film at all. There's just too much plotting in the movie, not enough sort of like meat on the bones. Tom Hardy tries his hardest. The script is just too weak for him to actually be able to grab things from the script to make it his. There's nothing in the film that is of interest at all. It's just a very forgettable film. It's when I tweeted my thoughts out, I said it is a forgettable trilogy. The trilogy of the Venom films, they're just so forgettable.
Well, I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure I have, but I can't even remember if I've seen the second one.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I have, because I'm sure the post-credit scene is him at a bar and some other character comes into it. You're like, oh, that's him from another film. So I remember that part, but I could not tell you anything about the first one or the second one, other than the fact it's called Venom and Tom Hardy's in it. Tom Hardy was fine, but
there's a big fight scene in the church in the second one.
Can't even remember that.
Yeah, it's a extremely forgettable trilogy. And then the final film is the one that I have not tweeted about yet, because I only saw it yesterday. I don't know if you saw the tweet that I did put out saying I had a bad day at work and then I watched this film and then it made my day even worse.
Which is a perfect tweet. It's like, that's a well-crafted tweet, but I feel bad that your day got worse than being in a call center.
So the film in question is Red One.
Oh, no. See, I really wanted that to be good, because I've seen a lot of people going, oh, it's going to flop, but they with a joyful, gleeful hands going, can't wait for it to bomb. Firstly, why? Why are you excited about film bombing? It should never be a good thing. And I like it when a film comes out that apparently everybody thinks is terrible, but actually it's really good. Ta-da! Red One, no?
No, it's the ugliest $250 million film I've seen in a very, 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 very long time. The budget is $250 million.
Yeah.
It's a film that was going to go on Amazon, but Amazon probably looked at the budget and went, Christ, we're not going to make much money from this by throwing it on Prime. We need to actually get some money by throwing it in the cinema.
I don't think they'll do that much at the cinema, though, will they? Do you think?
No. It's projected to make around about 25, 30 million in its opening weekend in America. It's not going to make its budget back at all. And it's just because Amazon realized, oh, we've got MGM. Let's sort out on the MGM logo. And we might make a little bit of money, but it's not going to wash its hands at all. Because the fact that it's a soulless Christmas film. Like, the whole point of a Christmas film is it's supposed to have heart, depth, soul, enjoyment, stuff like that. That's the premise or a point of a Christmas film.
Like Terrifier 3.
Yeah, like Terrifier 3.
Like Terrifier 3.
Deck the halls with lots of blood. But with Red One, it's such an empty, vapid, forgetful, soulless Christmas film. It's like being given a Christmas present with a bit of shit in a box. Like, you've got a big, huge, massive box and you think, oh my God, I've got a new PlayStation 5 Pro or something like that. And you open it and it's like the Russian nesting dolls. Like a smaller box and a smaller box. And then the final box, and it is just a poop, just in a box. That's it. The action from Dwayne Johnson is so cardboard and rigid. It's just really bad. Everybody involved just looks like they're not even enjoying what they're doing.
And you look at the cast, though. J.K. Simmons, great actor, amazing in most of the stuff I've seen him in.
The movie.
Chris Evans,
who is an actor who's only good for playing a superhero and nothing else.
And Dwayne Johnson, though, he used to be very watchable, because he's having fun. I am having fun. You're like the modern day Arnie. No, he seems to have gone off the boil a bit over the past however long.
Lucy Liu's in it as well, and she has a couple of lines, and I think they just brought her in because they needed a female character in the film, even though the bad guy's female, but the bad guy only appears in about 5 minutes of the entirety of the movie. It has sort of like, it's directed by Jake Kasdan, who did the Jumanji films. And the opening sort of like, this is probably the worst thing about the film. The opening, I would say 10 minutes of the film is very similar to how Jake Kasdan handled the Jumanji films, with sort of like that playful kind of explosive nature. You're thinking to yourself, oh, this opener is actually okay. There might be something here. These people who said the film itself is bad is wrong, because this seems to be potentially that it might be this good old-fashioned romp of a Christmas film. Like, even it might have a chance to be on sort of like level with Dudley Moore and the Santa Claus, even though it's not even that quality. And then after that 10 minutes, it just absolutely smacks you across the face and says, I hate you. Like, you're not getting anything for Christmas at all.
He's that shit in a box you've just paid like however many dollars for to sit in an auditorium.
It throws everything it thinks it wants to attempt out of the window for absolute boredom. There are parts of the film which just plods on with nothing happening. Like, there's just a couple of characters having dialogue, which the dialogue just doesn't even bring anything to the film. And as I said, it's the ugliest looking $250 million film I've seen in a very long time. The effects are atrocious. Now, you can't fully throw the blame onto the FX companies that create these special effects, because I'm guessing they were on a very, very tight deadline. And a lot of these big blockbuster movies are on a major tight deadline.
Because that's the thing. With the effects thing, it's like there's only two reasons why effects look crap in any movie. Not enough time, not enough money. That's it. The technology is obviously out there to make effects look amazing because we've seen them. But yeah, I would never blame the effects people. It's clearly. But how it's like $250 million for that movie and it still looks terrible. There's
I can't see where the money was spent. I seriously, honestly cannot see where the money was spent unless the money was spent on getting people like Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, because he won't be cheap.
No. And if that's the case, go with somebody else who is a lot more cheaper, because the character that you've got is such a cardboard, flat, dead inside character that you could pretty much get any homeless person off the street to do it for a couple of Happy Meals. And you would have gotten a hell of a lot of better film.
Because it's like you said about Chris Evans. Chris Evans isn't in the Robert Downey Jr. camp where he's like, I want 90 million to come back as Iron Man or whatever. J.K. Simmons, I don't think, is in like the 20, 30, 40 million dollars per movie, although quality wise he should be. So it's Dwayne Johnson doesn't look like he would do some small indie film. So he looks like he's in the I want as much money as possible, which is, well, for whatever reason, but crazy.
His days of doing films like Walking Tall are completely out the window now. He's never going to do a film like that ever again, unless his career has gone so bad that he is trying to clutch at the little tiny morsels like Nicolas Cage had to do, or Bruce Willis had to do. Bruce Willis, close to the end of his career, had to do. Dwayne Johnson is not going to do that because studios are dumb enough to actually still pay him the big bucks to be in a film that they think is going to make a hell of a lot of money, when in fact it's going to absolutely bomb. Because as soon as people go to see it, the word of mouth is going to be scathing towards that film. It's not going to be pleasant. So it is one of the most cynical, cash grab, ugliest looking Christmas films I've seen in a very, very long time. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So we're not going to get a Red 2. You don't think?
Red -1.
I mean, that money's not gonna damage Amazon because they've got more money than clearly sense by doing a lot of the stuff they do. But I think the days, and it's a topic we're probably going to do on this one, but we'll do on a future show because it's quite a lengthy one. And it includes studios are just crazy nowadays. They need to change what they're doing. I'll spend $250 million on a Santa movie. Don't spend 50 million, especially when you look at Terrifier 3. 2 million has made quite a hefty profit, and apparently looks very good, and we're getting a fourth one and everybody's excited about it. For 2 million. Crazy.
It's because studios like Neon and A24 know how to spend their films. They're sort of like doing what Blumhouse, unfortunately, Blumhouse have gone and kicked themselves up the
what they used to do.
But still, Blumhouse do not release films for more than 20 million, that like 20, 30 million, maybe tops. Their budgets are never going to reach the 100, 200 million, because even though Jason Blum is churning out movie after movie after movie, he's still a smart businessman in thinking that we're never going to recoup the money from a $100 million horror film. We're never going to do that. So he thinks smart, unlike some executives behind Warner Brothers, for example, like Zesler behind Warner Brothers. His head is so far up his own freaking arse. He looks like the the yoga woman from In a Violent Nature. But yeah, these big studios need to start learning a lesson, and they need to look at companies like Neon and A24 because they have small budgets. And even if the film doesn't get the big audience or the audience that they expected, it's still going to pretty much bring back its budget because the budgets are never high enough. And they're picking smart films. They're picking directors who want to create the film that they've been commissioned to actually do, rather than just getting somebody like Jake Kasdan to direct a big film because they go, well, we can just get him because he's done it before, we'll just get him. They need to start thinking about who they're getting to direct it. They need to start thinking about budgets, because if you look at all the films that have tanked in the last 10 years, I would say it, they've all been these big budget films.
Yeah.
Like, small budget films can tank, but it's very rare that we hear stories about a $5 million budget film tanking as much as, say, a Red One or a Transformers or something like, or a Joker Folie à Deux.
I mean, even Venom hasn't tanked. Venom 3 has underperformed what they thought they would make, but that cost 120 million. It's worldwide. Thankfully, the international money put that up, but it's made a profit or at least broke even. But if that was a $250 million movie, forget it. Venom has tanked, but you look at get its budget smaller.
With Venom, I don't think it's made the same amount of money as the previous one.
No,
Joker Folie à Deux has made nowhere near the same amount of money as the first Joker film. No. Its originality is gone in cinemas unless you're a studio that's willing to actually sort of like bet on the originals. And again, I keep on harking on them. That's Neon, that's A24. They're not interested in making sequels to some of their films. They might do down the line. Mm-hmm. They're looking at making or taking a director who's made a film that's been successful for them and go, you know what do you think about this idea? Or what ideas do you happen to have? And so create something of an idea that you have. Osgood Perkins, for example, with Long Legs. Long Legs was a big success, and The Monkey is coming out in February. And so getting somebody like Osgood Perkins, and I'm guessing as a director, he's never thinking about, let's make a sequel to Long Legs. Or let's make a sequel to a film I've done before. He's been given the chance to make a film based on a Stephen King short. And so doing that, letting directors who've made a successful film do a film that they're interested in doing, that's a new IP, that's something that's not got something attached to it, is the way that A24 and Neon are actually doing it. Yet the big studios, they're only interested in doing movies that are either sequels or very similar to what they've released before. And they think it's going to be successful when it's not.
And where the big studios are falling flat on their silly arses is they're throwing like 200, 250, 300 million at these things. And if they lose, then, and they usually do box office wise, they're losing a fortune. But if Neon or A24 could make any film at all for 20, 25 million, put it in theaters, and it'll probably break even because it's such a smaller gamble than 250 million on a bloody Santa movie. It's just like, I don't understand why these studios are still making 250, 300 million budget movies. It's just
it's ridiculous
stupidity. But yeah, in a future episode, we will do where we think the studios and film industry is going to be in 5 years, and we'll try and do some predictions on that one. The topic I want to jump. Have you finished your list?
Mm-hmm.
You done? The topic I want to finish up with, well, the second last topic to finish up with, I was looking through films that I'd never seen, and there's probably a lot of big films that I've never ever watched, and I thought, right, let's try and do a list of 5 films, each of us, that we've never seen for whatever reason. Doesn't matter why we've not seen it. And I managed to come up with 6 because, I'm me.
I've technically cheated.
How have you cheated?
Even though you said you've managed to come up with 6, I've managed to come up with 6, but one of them's a franchise.
Yeah, that's fine. That works.
So technically, in a way, there's about 10 films on my list.
Well, I've got 5 big films and then one that is from a big director that I've just never seen. That one. And that film that I've never seen is Brian De Palma's Body Double from 1984. I was listening to a podcast the other night and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that De Palma movie. So he's a big director, but I don't know if I would class the film as huge, but I've not seen it. My list, I don't think I've ever seen Suspiria. I keep thinking I have, but then I keep thinking I'm getting it mixed up with some of the other Argento stuff. So at some point, I need to go back and watch the original 1977 Suspiria and tick that off my list. The next one I've not seen is from the 1950s, and it's All About Eve. Apparently, everybody keeps telling me to watch that. I've never seen it. The third one is from 1979, and it's The Champ. One about the boxing where John Voight, and I know the ending of the movie, so that's not going to affect it too much. But I've never seen the film for whatever reason. Another one is, I think it's Humphrey Bogart's The Maltese Falcon, which I do have in a box set, so I will get that watched at some point. And another filmmaker that I'm probably going to try and be a completist on, but I've never managed to see all of his movies, Stanley Kubrick. I've never seen Paths of Glory from 1957. So that's 5 or 6 films that I've never seen. Modern ones, there's tons. I've not seen either of the new Dune films. I do have them both on Blu-ray, not seen any of those. And then obviously there's a whole bunch of blockbuster stuff that I've never bothered watching, but I wouldn't call them classics yet because they're pretty recent. So what have you got on your list of films you've never seen? And do you intend to watch all the ones on your list? I do on mine. I do want to watch them all. I've just never seen them.
One of them, yes. The rest, probably not.
Okay.
So the most recent, Oppenheimer. I was
not seen Oppenheimer yet?
No.
Oh, wow.
I was not caught up in the Barbie Oppenheimer thing. I've seen Barbie, but not Oppenheimer. So the one half of that, I've not seen Oppenheimer.
I really like Oppenheimer. It's got an amazing musical score. It's really good. So
yeah, the next one is that series. I've never seen any of the Twilight films.
Yeah, I've seen the first 2, and I'm like, I'm all right. It's fine. I'm out. Yeah.
Andy was the one who, I think. Well, you tell me who got the short straw, because Andy was the one who reviewed all the Twilight films, and I was the one who reviewed all of the 50 Shades films.
There's not much in it, to be fair. I've seen the first 50 Shades film, and I'm like, okay, it's beautifully shot, but I'm done. I haven't seen the second and third one, so there's not much in it, to be fair.
And just maybe to add the little cherry on the top of my cake is, obviously we couldn't have reviewed them all because our show didn't start when the first one was actually out, but I reviewed all of the films in the Alvin and the Chipmunks franchise
from when
we started the Monday Movie Show. So yeah, but I've seen a couple of scenes here and there, but I've never actually watched even half an hour of any of the Twilight films. I know what happens in them, but I've never seen any of them.
I remember watching the first one, and because I intended, I'm going to watch them all. I think there's like 4 of them now. I'm going to watch them all, get them out of the way. And I watched 2 of them, and I thought this would make like an okay TV series, like the OC and One Tree Hill and all that type of stuff, like Dawson's Creek, and it feels very much like that. But I'm like, I certainly wouldn't rush off to the cinema to watch all these. So
yeah, the final few, they get worse. So
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But on my list here as well, these next few films, this is where we're probably going to get the shocked reactions. So the next ones is the 2 together. I've not seen 4 Weddings and a Funeral or Notting Hill.
Wow. Okay. Annette's never seen 4 Weddings, which kind of surprised me. She's seen Notting Hill, but they're good. Notting Hill I prefer to 4 Weddings, but they're both okay.
The second to last film, I've not seen the third Godfather film.
I like the third one. You're not a massive fan of the other 2, though, are you?
I didn't like the first one. Really hated the second one, so I never watched the third.
3 is definitely the weakest of the trilogy. But if you like the first 2 or love the first 2, you'll like the third one. So you might as well skip that.
And then my biggest film that I've not seen is The Green Mile. I've not actually seen The Green Mile.
Oh my God. Is there a reason why you've not seen The Green Mile?
Not really. I think it was just the sort of like the fact that it was on for 3 hours kind of put me off a little bit. Yeah. Despite the fact that I have easily sat through films that are longer than 3 hours. I've seen films that are 4 hours. I even as a kid had to sit through things like the 10 Commandments and Ben-Hur and all that kind of stuff. And 10 Commandments is a very, very, very long film.
Yeah, it's like 4 hours, I think, isn't it?
So yeah, I think it was just the length, and I've never ever gone back to it.
Green Mile is very good.
Just like another film that I didn't make my list, that another big, huge film that I've not seen. I've not seen Casablanca.
I hadn't seen that until last year, and I watched it, and I'm like, that's a cracking movie, that one. But I hadn't seen it either.
Yeah, so my list that I just thought these are probably going to get some kind of reaction from your Oppenheimer, any of the Twilights, Four Winds and a Funeral, Notting Hill, Green Mile, and Godfather Part 3.
I think I like most of those movies. I think Green Mile is definitely worth going, right, I'm going to get this watched. But I'm the same. That's why I've not seen Dune and Dune Part 2. I've bought them. I own them. I want to watch them. I like the David Lynch one. I'm looking forward to these new ones. But it's like, when do you schedule a 3-hour movie or a 6-hour if you're going to watch them both? It's like, it's difficult. But Green Mile, I would definitely, it's very, very good. That's Annette's favorite film ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering I watched the director's cut of the Justice League film.
I watched that 4 hours. I love that movie.
Awful film. I watched both the Rebel Moon films, and
I don't know how you are, but I have a whole backlog of 3-hour plus movies that I just need to get around to watching. I've got the director's cut of Napoleon. I've seen the theatrical, and it was, it was what it was. But I've got both director's cuts of Rebel Moon, which I like the theatrical, Netflix ones. And so I'm looking forward to those. I've just got all these the Dune films. It's like, so at some point I need to set aside a month so I can watch like 6 films.
Yeah, as soon as you sent me the question, those films were the ones that popped into my head, and I know I'm going to get some kind of reaction in regards to these films.
I think Green Mile's a shocker for me.
Yeah,
it's like Oppenheimer. You go, well, that was last year. It's fine. I get why you've not watched that one because you're busy watching all these other movies and stuff. Twilight, I get that one. But Green Mile surprised me. It's like, oh my God, you've not seen the Green Mile. But that's always the reaction, isn't it? When people say, have you seen this? You go, no, I'm not seen that. They get mad at you. Why have you not watched that one? Because there's millions of other films to watch. I can't possibly watch everything because I've got to go to work and walk 6 miles, per day and stuff like that. But
just like when I turn around and say I don't like The Exorcist or these big films that a lot of people absolutely love, and I'm just good. Well, I don't like it, so that's fine.
People get mad at you though. How can you not like that one? It's like, just don't get mad at me. You could be surprised, but don't get mad.
I'm one of those very few people who think Return to Oz is better than The Wizard of Oz.
Never seen Return to Oz. No, I've not watched that one.
Yeah, I think that's much better. It's much more scarier than The Wizard of Oz, and so I'm that kind of person. But that's my list.
I think Casablanca, is because that was one of those. Until the past year or so, I'd never seen The Sound of Music. Watched it, really liked it. Casablanca, The African Queen. So I'm trying to catch up on a lot of these classic movies that I think I should watch, and usually they are as good as they say. But Casablanca is really good, and Green Mile is amazing. I discovered last night because Annette and I were watching one of these Watch Mojo things, which was, I can't even remember what the topic was, but we're like, how many out of these 20 do you think you've seen? And I'd seen 20 of them. Annette had seen 19. I can't remember what the number. It was the number one film that she'd not seen, and I wish I could remember A, what the film was, and B, what the topic was. But it was like one film. But one of the things in this list was the first Back to the Future movie, and it's in it. And she went, I don't think I've seen all of those. I'm like, what do you mean you've not seen all of those? She said, well, I've seen the first one, and I've seen the one with the cowboys. I'm like, you don't see Back to the Future 2? She went, no. I'm like, how? If you've watched the first one, you've watched the third one, how have you missed the second one? She went, oh, I don't know. So I think at some point we're probably going to watch Back to the Future 1 and then 2, but she'd never seen it. It's like, what? And I got mad at her. I'm like, how can you not watch that one? Watch it now. But there are too many films to watch, and there's too many films still coming.
Yep. There's still a few films coming out this year that I want to see that will probably take precedent over watching The Green Mile.
Yes. So, The Green Mile is definitely. I ended up watching the Courgette movie, which I ended up loving because it was wonderful. Zucchini, depending where you are. But we do need to end on a downer to the passing of Tony Todd.
Yeah.
Which a friend of mine, Abel, sent me a private tweet this morning saying R.I.P. Tony Todd. I'm like, oh no. And then even though I believe Abel, you go check. You're like, is it real?
Yeah.
And it is, and it's shit. Because he was such a nice guy. I never met him, but we swapped some tweets and stuff over the years. He was hugely interactive with his fans on social media. Not just a case of saying thanks. He would reply to things that you tweet. He would share his Spotify list and his music choices and stuff. He was amazing on screen, not just Candyman. A lot of people will just think, oh, he's the Candyman guy or the Final Destination guy, but he's done so much over the years, whether it's Platoon, whether it's The Rock, bring back to Michael Bay. Over 300 credits on his IMDb page. Seriously busy guy. And it was crap this morning to wake up to find out that he'd passed away at the age of 69. So what's your sort of relationship with Tony Todd and his roles? I'm guessing Candyman would have been something that you would have seen him in, being a horror fan and stuff. But what other ones?
Candyman was the first thing I saw Tony Todd in, and instantly it's his voice. Yeah, because he obviously did some voiceover work for video games as well. He did voiceovers in things like Back 4 Blood and Spider-Man 2 and Layers of Fear and Call of Duty, and so he did lots of voice work as well as animated films. But his voice was so unique. Like he had sort of like a malevolence to his voice where he could just even read out the alphabet, and you would be scared of the letter Q or scared of the letter V because the way he would actually read it out. So I think that was the sort of like the attraction in Candyman, because with the character of Candyman, you needed somebody with that sort of like gruff, malevolent tone to him, because that's how he's sort of like trying to entice somebody rather than just sort of like his attraction. He was one of those actors who he would probably admit as well that he wasn't the best looking actor. But I think the reason why he got hired because of the way he was able to portray somebody very evil, which he had a genius way of doing it, and his voice, because his voice was that very unique kind of voice. And so Candyman definitely was the first one. And then, as you mentioned, things like Final Destination, The Rock, The Crow. And he wasn't afraid to actually star in some of the worst films ever made, like some really cheesy, horrendous films, like the Tales from the Hood films. He was in all three of them, and Hellfest, which I didn't really like a few years ago, but he was in that. He was also in the fourth Hatchet film, Victor Crowley. So again, he was a producer on the third Candyman film. Tony Todd, which he was one of those actors as well, which preferred to actually be in front of the camera rather than being behind. His preference was always in front, because even if he was in a really crappy film, he was only in there for like 10 minutes, he wouldn't take production credit or anything like that. He would just be wanting to be in front of the camera, because you could tell that he really loved what he was doing.
And that came across online as well, when fans would just fire questions at, and I'd see it all the time. And I remember waking up one morning, it's like, Tony Todd follows you. I'm like, oh my God, Tony Todd. And it's one of them geeky moments that you don't tend to lose, but it reminds you how cool social media can be, as opposed to how crap it can be sometimes. And I would see people talking to him, and he'd just, be super friendly, super courteous. He would just be constantly answering questions from people. I recently did a full rerun of NYPD Blue, and Tony Todd's in it, and he pops up in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I say he popped up here, then everywhere. His remake of Night of the Living Dead by Tom Savini, it's like he takes the lead in that, and he was always a nice person to see on screen. Even if the film wasn't great, you are kind of always happy to see Tony doing what he did with it. So that's it's the older we get, we wake up in the morning, we're like, oh, another person that we've watched on screen for decades or years has left.
He only briefly pops it up in that stream. He only has a small, tiny little role in stream, but again, because it is one of those kind of films where it's got all those horror icons in it, it was just nice to actually see him. There'll obviously be a couple of more films that he'll have shot before he's passing, but Stream probably is one of his last films. And so watching that a few weeks ago and then finding it this morning when I switched on my phone, just that he passed away, it was just, oh, that's sad.
Nice chap. He was always one of the ones when I really always wanted to reach out and go, how'd you fancy doing a podcast? But then you look at him and you go, you're clearly that busy, you don't have time for that. And I don't want to hear a no. So I never did it. And I should start, reaching out to people and go, hey, do you want to do it? And if they come back no, then, at least I tried. But it was sad to wake up to that news this morning. So
it was.
Trying to flip it to a slightly more upbeat ending. What's your plans for the afternoon? Is anything you've got lined up to watch, or play, or do?
The football kicks off at 3 o'clock, so I always watch Soccer Saturday, even though my team doesn't play until tomorrow. So there's that. I've just finished a game called Gory Cuddly Carnage.
Okay.
Which is a platformer where you control a cat who was experimented on, and you're on a hoverboard that has to go and kill unicorns that have been infected by this disease thing. It's a silly platform adventure kind of hack and slash game. It's gory as hell. It's got a very funny undertone to it. It's very cheap. It was only like £12 on the PlayStation Store. It was such an entertaining game, so I've just not long finished that. If you're after a platformy kind of game, highly recommend it. It's about an 8-hour game, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It's not bad for 12 quid, though, is it?
Yeah.
I think 8 hours, it's more than, I mean, a Call of Duty campaign's about 6, isn't it? So,
So
there's that.
Just to prove how good it is, there's an upgrade tree inside the game itself where you can upgrade your abilities, and there's one of the upgrades is a swearing filter. So at the start of the game, the swearing is bleeped, but you can buy the swearing filter for 5,000 coins, and all the swearing's put back into the game.
Even if you go back and play it from the beginning again.
Yeah. So I just thought that was quite fun, because young kids could play it. Yes, there's gore in it, but it's just these psychopathic unicorns that are getting ripped apart. Yeah. So that's fine. And parents might not want them to hear the swearing, so they could allow them to play it without the swearing. But then you can just buy this filter and switch the swearing on, and there you go. You get a fish with a monocle that's swearing at you, or your hoverboard just effing and jeffing all of the time. It's a fun game. I highly recommend it.
Sounds very Christmassy. I think it falls right into the Christmas season with dead unicorns and swearing left, right, center. Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty good. I've got the new Call of Duty, which I've barely touched. Yeah. So I'll probably play a little bit of that. But I'm just going to have a relaxing kind of weekend, just because work has been a bollock this week. So.
Yeah. Game-wise, the only thing I'm playing Lego Marvel Avengers 2. Or Marvel Superheroes 2, which I'd never played before, but I thought I had. That was like £4.90 on the PlayStation Store for all the DLC and stuff as well. So if you browse around on the old PlayStation Store, you can get some bargains, really.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing a 2D platformer, which is Awaken Astral Blade, which came out. And that is a Chinese platformer. Just run along, hitting things with a sword, collecting the energy orbs and fighting big bosses and stuff like that. So that's fun. Apparently that's about 8 to 10 hours as well. And again, it's a game about 15, 20 quid or whatever. So
yeah.
I want to get back into VR too, but I just haven't been bothered lately. But I want to check out a game called Max Mustard, which has come out, which is a bit like an Astrobot type game from what I'm hearing. But what would be in poorly and stuff, it's like I don't want to be putting a headset on, and that could possibly spiral me into some sort of weird craziness or whatever. So, but I do want to get back into VR, and I want to get back into video gaming in general. But other than that, I'm going to sit and watch some TV or movies or whatever tonight. But
I'm going to have a little look to see if there is a Guillermo del Toro film that I've not seen,
and try and get it watched.
Yes.
Yep,
I've probably seen them all, but there is that now. You've got me questioning: have I?
Yeah.
Huge, massive question mark there, and I would cry if I do find one. And I think, oh my God, I said I've seen them all, and there is one film, and I've not seen this, and I need to watch it now.
And next there'll be Bayona. See if you've seen all of his films. Which
I think I have seen. There's not very many of Juan Antonio Bayona's films, but I'm because his directorial debut was The Orphanage.
Okay,
and I've seen every single film that he's released, from The Impossible even all the way to Jurassic Park, and so I think I have seen them, even the one that he released on Netflix.
Yeah.
I think I've seen all of Bayona's films, but now, like I said, you've got me questioning about Del Toro.
Well, I'll let you go find out how you're doing with Del Toro. Enjoy your football, and keep me updated on the medical stuff as well. So
I will do.
Fingers crossed and all that lot. All right. Well, you take care and enjoy your afternoon and the rest of the weekend.
You too there. Bye-bye.
Bye.